for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 288. We're talking in startup mode. When do I hire? Such a critical question. Too often we do it very reactionary in this business. And so we want to really dig into that. And of course, this is Best Served Vol2, episode 4 of 8 with Looks Who's Cooking. We've been talking to Ching-Ren Hu throughout this process. And today we're going to be talking to Jordan Boesch, CEO, founder of 7 Shifts, who is underwriting the series. We're going to talk to Jordan a little bit about kind of why that was important and the culture that we're trying to build with Best Served and what's happening with 7 Shifts as well, how our values really seem to align. And then we're going to get into Jordan wealth of knowledge of taking people from end to end in their business process, specifically with kind of the employee life cycle. So we're getting to that. So no further ado, Jordan Boesch, want to bring you in now. Jordan, good to see you.
Hey, Jensen, good to see you again.
All right. So I wanted to start with that. I wanted to bring you in first, a little bit different than usual. We usually bring in our subject first. Our subject, that sounds horrible. We bring in our guest. And I wanted to take a moment, though, to reflect on this. With working with yourself, your team, Chris DeYoung, Brianne behind the scenes, wrote a couple articles that are coming out this week. Very excited about those. The conversation was never about sponsorship. It wasn't about ROI. It wasn't about CPM. It was about the impact that we can have on the people who dedicate themselves to feeding their community, how we can really be of support to them. And it was a very different type of conversation. And I was grateful for it. And our values so aligned that we kind of went into this mission together, and we're doing these 32 episodes together and really trying to, better each other's efforts to have an impact on the people. So I just wanted to find out, why is that the approach that 7 Shifts is taking? It's different. It's easy for you to just throw money at sponsorships and look for a return on investment and look for, new sign-ons of clients. This is a very different approach. Why is it important to you?
Yeah, it's important to us because we target and we work with restaurant operators as our core business. And the fact is, if restaurants aren't successful, we aren't successful in what we do. And I come from the restaurant industry. My parents ran restaurants, my grandparents ran restaurants, and I saw a lot of pains in managing restaurants, and it was never easy. And I always like to say, it's these people that get into this world, it's almost like they're running a startup for the rest of their life. It seems like they're just always going, and like no vacation, it's because it's your life. And I really I didn't want my dad to go through that. And so thinking through ways that I could have an impact to help him was kind of at the forefront. So we've built our business around that, and that remains true today. Is if we're not giving operators back time in their day to spend time with their kids, with their families, then what are we really doing? It doesn't make sense. So I think especially in the pandemic, where people are reflecting on how they spend their time a little bit more, that it just means it's even more important now than it ever was.
Yeah, I think what I recognized is, you're in tech, and it's easy to speak tech and try to create this perfect solution, this utopian technology. Restaurant people, if we don't bleed out of our eyeballs, for some reason we don't respect it. And so finding the balance of the human experience within your ability to have the technology be an asset to the time and the opportunity to engage better, which I know we'll talk about a little bit more, was important. It's not just another mousetrap, right? It's a great technology. It's not just the technology, it's the human factor that I think was so important. And for us, that feeds into we believe in creating workplaces worth working, and I think anytime we're thinking about that, there has to be lots of great tools and resources, yet there has to be humans supporting you in that effort. And I think that's an important thing. You do a lot of things that for a technology company aren't scalable, like doing this show right now. Yet I think you said it, you're like, I will stop what I'm doing to sit down and talk with an operator. And I was like, that's amazing. That's what we need, and if you instill that in your company culture, I think more restaurants need to instill that same kind of company culture. Could have a massive impact on their people. So I appreciate it. Thank you for that. It's a refreshing conversation to have. And so I want to bring in Ching. Excited to get kind of this download of all this good energy we have going right now. Ching, great to see you.
Great to see you as well.
All right, Ching, Jordan, Ching.
Hey, Ching. Great to meet you.
All right. So what we're talking about today is that startup mode. Jordan mentioned it. You're kind of always in startup mode. Yet you are actually in startup mode. Days, weeks, short term to launching your food truck business. And it's really easy to get chummed up in the day to day, to get caught up. And all of a sudden you're busy. Amazing. You're busy and you need to hire people. And you haven't taken the time and the effort to really think about what that means and who you're looking to be a part of your team and how you're going to cultivate that relationship, that culture, all of those pieces. So we want to do that now. So we worked on that last week. I want to bring in Jordan because they have a really great, and Jordan, I want you to start with this and then dig in. I know you love asking questions, so ask questions to Ching. Employee life cycle, really understanding what it takes for an employee to be a part of the entire process that is working with you. So Jordan, first I wanted you to kind of like break down employee life cycle. Why is that the way that you're focused on these benchmarks of interaction with an employee?
Yeah, I think so. While we obviously provide tools to help operators operate in a more efficient manner, I think it's really important to understand that I always almost see it as a teeter-totter. You have to kind of fulfill the employee and the operator and have a strong engagement through and through. And so when we think about the employee life cycle, we think of how do we help restaurants from the moment someone is hired to them being trained once they're hired and scheduled, obviously, as part of that training. After they work their shifts, they're paid using typically a payroll company, and then they're effectively retained until they quit or are terminated. And so the way most companies, I think, traditionally think about solving problems is they kind of just go like, we're like a hiring tool and that's what we do. And that's great. But I think nowadays there's so much more that people are discovering as it relates to improving the hiring process to get the right people in the right seats. Whereas I think typically you look at like the volume play where it's like, I just need I have some operators telling me, just give me tons of applicants. And it's like, okay, that's an interesting approach. But then you give them tons of applicants and then now they say, well, I want the best applicants, right? So I think that the problem initially, everyone's trying to get to the same solution and solve, which is how do we get the right people in the door when I need them? And the training aspect is, if people are coming into the business, no matter what business it is, frankly, how do we get them ramped up as fast as possible to be effective? The scheduling part is obviously managing their shifts. And then, we're a business, so, and restaurants are as well. So you need to figure out, obviously, you need to choose technology around payroll. And believe me, payroll's a headache for everyone. And there's a lot of great companies out there that are making it easy to do. And then the retention side is something that's, I think, incredibly important around how do you keep that person for as long as possible if they are truly a fit? Because I think too often we think of this industry as like just a revolving door and, hey, I'm just going to go to the resume stack and get like a new person. And, it's fine. They're young and they're going to go elsewhere. But I just think the mentality can change a little bit in terms of how you approach the type of person you need and how you nurture them and potentially set them up a little bit more longer term than thinking of them as just like a revolving door.
Jordan, I appreciate that. And Ching, I want to get to kind of high level your thinking of the challenges, the hopes that you have for building a team, for retaining a team, right? Because we have, 73% turnover rate as like an industry standard. That is garbage. We have to do better. We have to be better. Chef Alan Plement, somebody who's a friend of the show out in Missouri, said something that really struck me. And I throw that into these conversations. He said, we call people in restaurants bodies or hands, like that they aren't even a full person, that they're just occupying space so that we can survive the day. And it's just like, wow, that is, and I feel that. I've felt those moments in restaurants where it's like, I just need to survive through the day. Please just make these 10 dishes and let's get through the day. I understand it. Yet we have to take a step back and stop beating our heads against the wall and start to invest in our most valuable asset, our people. It's the only asset that we actually have. Everything else is commoditized. Other people have more money, more talent, a better burger, whatever that is. Your people, it's the only thing that can truly distinguish you. So another rant, you two know I love to rant. Ching, for you, what are the opportunities you're hoping for, or the challenges that you see at a high level? And then I'll let Jordan jump in and kind of pull at some threads, ask you some questions to figure out, their resources and knowledge and how that might serve you.
You bet. For me, I have a full-time job on top of launching this food truck. So trying to find that balance of still maintaining the full-time job because I do love what I do there, even though it's kind of in a weird world right now because of being in catering and events. So what does it take to get launched? And then at what point in time do I start bringing people in? Because maybe I am doing a bunch of weddings this year, but I still want the food truck to still kind of be out there and still kind of building that brand or having somebody help with the prep on the back end so that I can take the truck out, on Saturday, Sunday, whatever that might look like.
Yeah. What challenges have you faced with that? There's two things that I really love about what Seven Shifts and Jordan does. One is that they just create time. It's just so much more seamless. I know some really savvy operators that were like, I have cut the time of managing scheduling down by 4 hours a week. I'm like, 4 hours a week? That is a massive amount of time. So that's one. And the second part is engagement. They're really creating an opportunity for you to understand, like, is somebody chronically showing up late for work? You might want to check in with them. So it's creating an opportunity for you to see what's happening with the people with your business and have the technology help you do that on the back end a little bit. So what challenges have you faced managing a team, not being present? I know you've been multi-locations and kind of trying to like juggle things. Talk about that a little bit. And then Jordan, please jump in.
Right now, it's me, as far as that goes. So trying to just balance my own personal day right now of making sure that I get all my calls scheduled I'm supposed to do for my full-time job, but still also on the side doing everything that I need to try to get my business up and running. I think, moving forward and forecasting out, if you will, when I do have a team is knowing that they're trusted people that, using different software, that type of thing, make sure they're where they're supposed to be at the right time, because I may not physically be there with them.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I just have a few questions. Shane, you mentioned that you're kind of doing this part-time and you've got a full-time job. I guess I'm curious to know what your maybe even short-term goal may be with it and maybe a little bit more long-term. Like, do you have a timeline in mind from a short-term perspective when you want to make that full transition or when you're hoping to make that transition to potentially full-time doing your food truck and the business?
You bet. I mean, I think short term is basically the next couple of years. I want to be able to do both. I think, long term goals in 5 years, something like that, is to have some sort of brick and mortar, and being able to transition into that. But right now it's a balancing of both of them because I'm passionate about both industries, and what I do for both, and making sure that, right now if that means I take the truck out twice a month, maybe that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paying rent, so to speak, as far as a brick and mortar location where I have to be generating revenue every day. It's what do I need to do to break even or make a little bit of profit right now, just to kind of get the word out and start building that. And then eventually being able to say, okay, these are the 3 days a week or every other week that I'm going out, to sell food.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
Jordan, one thing to consider in that is being an event producer, as the full-time job, catering a lot of those elements. One of the things that I see, one of the things I want to start to have Ching be able to intersect a little bit more, and I think creating more time and opportunity and managing a team so that they can help support that, is now she could potentially have the venue locked down and then be the extension of the food. So I think that because she's in the inner workings of the event production and the catering side, that then she can also be the solution for the food, creates an opportunity where she can sell both services basically to clients. That's the way that I'm thinking about it, which is challenging to see when it's just her, which is why I want to say, look, like, where does the rubber meet the road and the opportunity to save that time, to create the opportunity so that you're going out 8 days a week in a month from now? That would be the goal. So kind of feed into that. Where do you think she needs to be focusing her attention when it comes to kind of?
I just have another question, because you mentioned that the event. So is that the full-time job, or is this this is still in addition to your full-time job?
That
the event side.
So I was sales in sales and design for a catering company. So
Gotcha.
sometimes it's helping source venues. Sometimes it's they've got the venue locked in. They just need catering, in terms of that, and helping them kind of bring their vision to life.
Yeah, and Jensen, what you were saying is, use the food truck to provide to some of the venues or the catering business, which is the other one. So one kind of feeds the other, is what you were.
Yeah, kind of that's the hope. It could be a really cool extension. She's got a unique and great
Mm-hmm.
story. The Chinese immigrant story, American dream has been a big part of what we've been talking about. That there's this authentic story and there's this food extension of that I think can create a really dynamic experience for people, especially in this moment, because her food truck can go directly to the people. And a lot of times people are looking to bring the experience to them right now. So I think there's a little bit of a white space that she could fill. Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you started doing that, Shane?
Not up and running yet. So I just got my official letter saying that my plans have been approved. And so now I just need to do in-person inspections and then propane permitting, and then should be ready to get rolling. So I'm in that like really weird, very, very startup phase where it's been kind of the hurry up and wait mode.
The most exciting and scary part, you're going to have to start serving food soon.
I know.
You've been building to that for so long.
Yep.
That's great. And do you have kind of that support with the employer to potentially, like, almost like we use the term like dog fooding, like using our own technology, like, them using your service for some of these events, or even like helping promote it, given your background? It does. I agree. There's some really natural fits there.
You bet. Currently, I'm kind of keeping them separate, just for all intents and purposes. Just trying to make sure that I keep that way. My full-time job also knows that I'm dedicating all that I can to my full-time job, and doing this on the side. I do have a very strong network, though, I feel like, of supporters out there already, which I'm so grateful for, that have all reached out and said, when you're ready, please let us know. We'd love to have you come get set up. And, whether that's in a residential neighborhood or the venue has different ongoing events that they want me a part of already.
Yeah, I think just given where you're at, just given that it's so new, the challenges I think that you're going to face is probably not initially when to hire. Like, you're going to have a set of other challenges as you kind of get set up, is my feeling, right? You're going to be like, I just need to get booked. And like, once you're booked, you're going to have to figure out like where you want to go at what times. And is this the right customer? And you're going to probably do some learnings of like the profile of maybe these events that you want to be a part of, or even just like location of the truck, and figuring out where you want to be. I think once you figure that out, and then there's more of a rhythm. I think just thinking back to our own experience of me starting 7 shifts and going from 1 person to we're 150 now. So very, very different, but you do naturally do everything for a little while. And that point in which you transition to having someone help you is a point that everyone, if you ask them, says that they waited too long to do.
Yes.
It's kind of like that person that you end up firing. Like, no one ever says, oh, I could have waited a little longer. Everyone goes like, oh my God, like, why didn't I do that 3 months ago? And now, now I have like morale's high. And anyway, I'm just kind of digressing for a moment, but I do think that passing of the torch typically doesn't happen as fast as it should for a variety of reasons. I think people, myself included, are kind of like, I can do this better than any person coming in. And while that may be true, it's not going to be true as you look to continue to scale out the business and you get more bookings. And then pretty soon, and I've seen this a million times, where people are so busy in their business working that they can't see the forest of the trees. They're just like, someone will come in and go like, well, why don't you just hire someone? And it sounds like such a obvious comment. And the answer is, well, I don't have time. Like, you're just perpetuating this hamster wheel. And the longer you do that, the more burnout you're gonna go through. And so, I think that identifying that early is where you're stressed, and thinking of where you could have someone that may be entry level that can learn some things to help you out, maybe beneficial. But I think that as you go through it, it becomes more clear of where you need to get help. You find that you're doing 60% of your time, you're doing this thing that's so highly repetitive that you could get someone to come help you do. That'll probably be the first thing you tackle. And then you're on to different things and so forth. So you constantly like pull yourself back as you get bigger. But it's that, I think that mindset needs to be there of like, what else could I be doing if I'm not doing this? How could I be working? And I think that's an important question that people should ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at this year and kind of excuse me, what's on the books already, in terms of my full-time job. It's like, okay, I think I'm probably going to need somebody third, fourth quarter because of, the world kind of opening back up, and events coming back to life. And so it's kind of already keeping my eyes open for potential candidates of people that would be a good fit, to be alongside me in the truck, or that can be trained to the point that they're able to take the truck out too.
Yeah. And Ching, here's what I'd say that really connects to what Jordan's talking about is from the network that you have, especially, and the story that you have, and the dedication to all facets at all levels of this industry and the people that commit themselves to it. Your number one customer archetype, we're hospitality professionals. You care so deeply about that audience that they are going to rally around you like you would not believe. So when you're talking quarter 3 or 4, I'm thinking a month from now, there's going to be such a call for you to do this that I want you to think about all of those things today. It's why we're writing job stories. It's why we're talking to Jordan at this point, because I think it's important, because you may not need the solution. You may not need a technology like 7 shifts today, next month. What I want you to have an understanding is when you see that fork in the road, the opportunity is there, and it will be there. And I guarantee you it will be there sooner than you think. You have all of the backing, the training, the resources that you need to go and take that with eyes wide open and with reckless abandon at the same time. And that's what I really see in this employee life cycle. It's the same thinking of your business life cycle. It's very much the same approach. And so that's why I wanted Jordan to really think about, they're always thinking about these transitional moments in your business, which means transitional moments in your life. And that's why I really think that they're a good resource. And so one of the things after this is Jordan's team is unbelievable at organizing information, and they do a lot of research and things like that. Maybe Jordan, have you touch on that, why that's so important. A lot of case studies, a lot of surveys that they're bringing that information in. I want to start to feed that to you because I think that's going to be important for you to understand when you're at that point, because when you get in that truck, it's going to be hard to see the forest through the trees. You're not going to recognize that it's like, it's bin time. It's go time. So Jordan, touch on that, some other resources that can help Ching through this process so that she doesn't get in that stuck place that you and I have seen operators get in time and time again.
Yeah, I honestly feel like it's definitely circumstantial in terms of what you read and at what stage, because there's a lot of stuff out there I just keep remembering you haven't started yet. So there's going to be, just challenges that you're going to face, and there may be no manual that will help you through those challenges that will kind of be so context specific to what you're doing, and that's okay. I think just remembering that you're there to solve a ton of problems constantly, and just be you're gonna get thrown tons of problems every minute, and you're not gonna have time to Google that specific thing. You're just gonna have to act and use your best judgment. And I don't know that given the stage, you're going to be your best resource, honestly. And I had a question though as well. Do you, looking at the website and kind of hearing more about the business, is you have a partner with you running this food truck, or is Janice helping you in this endeavor as well?
Is supporting on the back end. She's got her own things that she's working on as well, but she's been a huge support as far as helping me get certain tasks and that type of thing done. And she'll be most likely be my first person on the truck with me, if you will, running the window while
nice.
I'm cooking, because that's kind of how our relationship started. She was a line cook with me. I hired her on when I was running Eden because she liked to cook. And so we're really good at working in tight spaces together and know how to kind of move around one another easily. And so I think that's also key in finding that right person to be on the truck, because it is such tight quarters, much smaller than a normal kitchen. So who's okay to be in that bubble, and how do we learn how to work around one another?
Yeah, that's great. So you guys, you both know how to maneuver with your elbows, right?
Yep, exactly.
They know the dance, the kitchen line dance.
Hand signals, and you can't hear one another over the hoods, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's really key. I'm just drawing parallels to when we were 2 or 3 people. What was really clear for us is that while we knew each other really well, something we didn't go through the exercise as much as we should have is who's accountable for what. And it's a really good exercise to go through, because what happened to us is like, there was like a month where we were just stepping on each other's toes. Like, it's like I would do that thing, and then my wife Andre, who founded the company, we're a husband and wife founded company. So that's probably a whole other podcast. But and our third Johannes, like they were like heads down, like doing the same thing, and like didn't talk about it. And we're just like, oh my God, guys, what are we doing? Like, I didn't know you were working on that for the past hour. I was literally doing the same thing. And so it was kind of like, okay, who's taking on this role? Who's owning it? And we can, I love the saying, I love the single point accountability principle, which is that only one person can be accountable for that thing. But you can have multiple people that are maybe responsible, but only one person's accountable. And so I've kind of carried that throughout the history of building this company. And I think those boundaries are really good to set up, being like, look, I can do this really well. Why don't you take on this? And, shake hands. And when something does come up, when there's conflict, just talk it out. I think that's probably the best thing in the early stage to do.
Awesome.
Jordan, that was a perfect way to put a icing on the cake of this one, because I think one of the things that I think is interesting, that we're writing this job story, right? And it's a paw. And Ching, we didn't even make the connection until Sophie said it. It's like, is that like the paw of the cat that's on the truck? I was like, of course it is. That makes total sense. I love the acronym. So props for that. And I totally missed it last week. Sophie had to remind me of that, and I appreciate that. But what I want you to do is like, look, you wear all hats. It's easy to say that and just to continue to be perpetual motion and try to put out every fire while you're starting every other fire. That is the entrepreneurial way. Jordan, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Very
Ching,
true.
I know what I'm talking about. Everybody who's been through that knows what I'm talking about. I want you to write job stories for all the different personalities and hats you have to wear.
Okay.
Because I want you to understand who you have to be in each of those individual moments, so that you know who you can bring onto your team to replace you and probably do a better job than you in actuality, because it allows you to focus on the thing that you're meant to do, not the thing that you just happen to have to do in that moment. So we're going to write job stories individually, and it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like you're like, but that's me. Yes, but it has to be a different part of you, because eventually it's going to be a different person. And if you do that, the moment you recognize your inability to juggle all those balls, you recognize which ball is the most important and the type of person you need to bring in. So Jordan, that was a great way. Jordan, any last thoughts for Ching? I so appreciate this, Jordan, too. And I don't want to like keep patting you on the back ridiculously, but it's important to me. This is everything. Yes, it's important to me. Everything that we're trying to build here is to shift the narrative around the way we invest in people, how we think about our businesses, that the business is the culmination of the people, not people are stacked bodies to be able to have this business be able to operate. And so, Ching, for you again, Ching is not going to get 7-shift software. There is no ROI in this moment transactionally for your time. Yet it's important to you because there are more people at Ching's stage than are at the stage where 7 shifts is the right investment for them. So just, again, wanted to say that and touch on that. Again, give us like why that's important to you and take us out. And I appreciate your time, Ching. Good episode. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan, very much.
Yeah, no worries. And again, this is not about me selling the product. I actually genuinely like talking to operators, because it makes me think of my family and growing up and how we can help build and make this industry better. Honestly, I think props to you for taking a dive and the plunge to get into this business. It is not an easy business, and I have so much respect for people that go through this. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be super challenging. But I think remembering that you're doing this because it's something that, it's going to be fulfilling. There's going to be if you don't come back at the end of the day and you're not fulfilled, I think that's another problem. But through all the hardship that I witnessed through my parents building it and even building 7 shifts, it was hard, but I was always fulfilled. It was hard, but I loved it. Yes. It's just you need to have that combo. Yeah. And you need to be just kind of watch out for it and make sure it's always present. So I'm super excited for you, and it's great chatting.
Jordan, you and I need to go on the motivational speaker tour, man. That was great. Really appreciate that. It was an emotional roller coaster today. So, Jordan, thank you so much for your time, and stay warm there in -20 Saskatchewan. I appreciate you talking with us today. Take care. Have a good one.
You too. See you.
All right, Ching. Next week, great. I mean, Jordan, such a deep thinker. Such a deep thinker, and those are the people that I really want to surround myself with, the people that I want to be working with, the people that it's really hard for me to put underwritten by 7 Shifts on our stuff because I'm so protective of not doing anything that's transactional, right? That's so important to me. Yet to be able to make sure that Sophie can do what she can do, and Corey can do what he does, and Andrew and Lottie and the whole team, it's so important. So the fact that Jordan and 7 Shifts, Chris DeYoung, their team is willing to invest themselves, their time, and a little bit of cash, it's meaningful in all ways. So I really, I'm thankful for that. So great interaction. Next week, what's on the menu? We're talking traditional versus fusion. We've already we're navigating that again and again and again. Your ability to train your team thoughtfully on that, to communicate that to your audience, to stay grounded in your story and the path of that, going to be so important. So I'm writing some menu descriptions, kind of some menu stories. Everything's a story, me, broken record. And we got another guest coach, which I'm excited about not telling you who the guest coaches are going forward. So it should be a good surprise. A lot of energy next week for sure. So be prepared for that. Any thoughts going into next week? How you feeling?
Feeling good. Just super excited, kind of feeling like I can see the finish line now.
I think it's the starting line, actually.
The finish line for all the pre-stuff.
Yes.
And then be able to take those next steps and finally getting out on the streets and being able to feed people and bring this dream to actual reality is pretty exciting and scary and all of things. So
and I am so excited and anxious for you, and I'm grateful to be a part of this. If it means that I can support you and lift you up or hold your feet to the fire, any of those things, I'm game, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So all right, we'll let you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm excited to talk to you next week. And as chefs, we're getting into the menu. This is going to be fun next week. So we will be talking about how we thoughtfully navigate that idea of traditional versus fusion and that intersection. So have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
All right, everybody. Great episode. So thankful again to Jordan and 7 Shifts, their whole team. It's really important. It took a lot of hard work to find the right partners for us. And again, I'm so protective of it, and it means a lot to have that kind of partnership. So Best Served Podcast 288. Oh, we're getting close to 300. In startup mode, when do I hire? Really understanding the employee life cycle, understanding the business life cycle, which means understanding your personal entrepreneurial life cycle, I think is super important. Big takeaway from this episode. That is it. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Cheers.